Angelina, to your left side.
Blake Lively found herself at the center of a media storm after Angelina Jolie silenced her on live television with a single, cutting remark. While Angelina's reputation continues to define Hollywood excellence, Blake's attempt to climb onto Time's most influential list crumbled in real time, leaving her image in shambles and her confidence shattered.
Magazine just announced the 100 most influential people of 2025. Wait, why is Blake Lively?
With one calm but devastating sentence, Angelina Jolie drew a line between authenticity and imitation, saying, "There's a difference between telling a story and stealing someone else's voice." That remark instantly dismantled Blake's polished PR illusion. The fallout was immediate. Blogs roasted her, advocacy circles distanced themselves, and stars like Florence Pugh and Charlize Theron reportedly hit the unfollow button without hesitation.
For disgusting and embarrassing inclusion on Time 100 Most Influential People.
Angelina, however, remained unfazed. No cryptic selfie, no notes app statement, just silence backed by an unshakable legacy. Her record speaks louder than any press release, while Blake's carefully curated brand began to look more like a recycled performance than genuine advocacy.
It's honestly comedy at this point. I don't even think I'm offended anymore by anything that this degenerate does.
The comparison between the two women only magnified Blake's misstep. Angelina Jolie's 2 decades of humanitarian work, from over 60 field missions to her role as a UNHCR special envoy, set a standard few could reach. She's built schools, championed legal aid for refugees, and witnessed human struggle firsthand. In contrast, Blake's name surfaced more for photo ops and Fashion Week appearances than meaningful change.
As conditions are, the refugees here count themselves as the lucky ones.
Angelina's humanitarian resume even includes the prestigious Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, just one milestone in her lifelong dedication. While Angelina faced danger and hardship in war zones, Blake was front row at runways. And when Angelina spoke about the pain and imperfection of Hollywood, Blake's philanthropy looked hollow in comparison, especially tied to brands with troubling histories and a wedding held on a former plantation.
They decided to get married at the Boone Plantation in South Carolina. That's where they got married. There's no slaves in that plantation right now, but it was all about history, the braids. Were there ever slaves here? Did bad stuff happen here? How dare you get married?
That very wedding remains one of Hollywood's most criticized choices. Exchanging vows on a site once marked by human suffering was more than tone-deaf, it was symbolic of privilege unchecked. And when the backlash hit, Blake tried to recover with a glossy magazine spread and a donation to the NAACP, reported anywhere from $200,000 to $2 million, a gesture that seemed more like damage control than genuine remorse.
They donated this money because after multiple times, after year, they had been getting slammed and receiving so much backlash for their plantation.
Blake's next move, the Homebound campaign, was designed to show compassion and connection. Soft pastels, tender narration, and sleek visuals painted her as a beacon of hope. But the reality was embarrassing. Her tagline, "Rebuilding what's been broken, one voice at a time," wasn't just inspired by Angelina's 2019 UNHCR campaign, it was copied word for word, exposing a staggering lack of originality.
What happened in 2019 was that Blake and Ryan were once again in desperate need of good PR. And I will say this time it wasn't their fault.
It didn't stop there. The same rural village featured in Blake's feel-good photo shoot had been part of Angelina's humanitarian outreach for years. Blake reportedly stayed for a weekend, complete with stylists and photographers, capturing the struggle like a lifestyle aesthetic. Meanwhile, Angelina's phrases, ideas, and even imagery resurfaced in Blake's campaign materials. The UN eventually stepped in, and Blake's team scrambled, taking down the site, deleting posts, and vanishing without an apology. The contrast was undeniable. Angelina had spent years in Syria, Cambodia, and the Congo doing real work, while Blake's imitation fell apart under the weight of its own artificiality.
That rape is an inevitable part of
Blake's campaign felt less like empathy and more like performance art, a Vogue spread dressed up as activism. Where Angelina had built something lasting, Blake simply swapped colors and filters, pretending it was new. It wasn't homage, it was a hijack. She thought charm and curated captions could disguise it, but this isn't the era of polite silence anymore. The pattern of tone-deaf choices, plantation weddings, performative apologies, and hollow branding finally began to crack under scrutiny. And now, both Hollywood and the public see it clearly.
People were outraged. And I'm not kidding. I'm showing you this headline from NBC News. It says, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively apologize for plantation wedding. Now, this is published in 2000.
As Blake continues signing autographs for characters she never portrayed and claiming a voice in activism she hasn't earned, Angelina remains grounded, quietly changing lives without the need for validation. That single honest sentence from Angelina didn't just sting, it marked a turning point. In an industry drowning in performative virtue, her truth hit harder than any scandal. And yes, Blake's infamous 2012 wedding at Boone Hall still stands as a haunting reminder that fairytale optics often hide deeply flawed choices.
It has a history of weird, kind of racist things.
The reckoning didn't end there. In 2018, Ryan Reynolds tweeted "Wakanda forever," only for the internet to clap back with a brutal reminder, "Didn't you get married on a plantation?" The irony was impossible to ignore. Their silence that followed spoke volumes, and after years of mounting backlash, Ryan finally admitted in 2020 that the decision was impossible to justify.
Super expensive as well, horrible clothing, and it's another proof that Blake Lively, first of all, doesn't have any sense of fashion, and she would wear plantation fashion.
But when the apologies came, they followed the standard celebrity playbook, public regret paired with an ambiguous donation. Reports claimed the couple gave $1 million to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, though some insiders say the figure was far lower. In the end, it symbolized everything about their public image, polished on the surface, but filled with question marks underneath. Because when your brand relies on illusion, even your receipts come with fine print. After years of backlash over their plantation wedding, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively tried to clean up their image with a hefty donation to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. But critics quickly noticed that the contribution, smaller than Blake's annual Met Gala wardrobe, felt more like PR damage control than genuine accountability. Still, Time magazine, in a stunning lapse of judgment, hailed her as a titan, grouping her alongside real icons like Serena Williams and Simone Biles. The word titan implies unmatched strength, intellect, and influence, qualities that make the comparison almost comical. Then came 2025, when Blake proudly endorsed her real-life jeans from Magnolia Pearl, a brand infamous for its plantation-inspired designs glorifying antebellum aesthetics. The internet exploded as screenshots of the campaign went viral, with one comment summing up public outrage: "This isn't fashion, it's aesthetic racism for the rich." While social media demanded accountability, Blake brushed it off as harmless nostalgia. But this wasn't a one-off. Her fascination with Southern charm has been a recurring theme, from plantation weddings to tone-deaf product launches. Even her red carpet choices, dubbed funeral core Barbie, feel like misplaced tributes to eras of suffering repackaged as couture. Meanwhile, Angelina Jolie remains halfway across the world, sitting in trauma centers, advocating for refugees, and working with survivors of violence, turning empathy into measurable impact. Against that backdrop, Blake's obsession with nostalgia looks less like inspiration and more like ignorance. Yet the absurdity reached its peak when she appeared at the Another Simple Favor premiere, happily signing photos of Lady Deadpool, a character she never even played. It was the perfect metaphor for her brand, glossy, performative, and built entirely on someone else's story. The irony didn't stop there. The photos Blake Lively eagerly signed at the Another Simple Favor premiere weren't even of her, they were of her stunt double. Yet she autographed them with the confidence of someone performing charity for eBay resellers. It was a surreal moment for fans who remembered the old Blake, the one who used to breeze past crowds like they were holding subpoenas. Now, mid-crisis, she was suddenly approachable, smiling for cameras while trying to erase months of bad press tied to her fallout with Justin Balden. "Do you want this picture?" she chirped, encouraging fans to sell the autographs online for $25. The desperation was almost theatrical. Then came the quote heard around the internet: "I finally have a voice." Really? This is a woman who has had an entire megaphone since 2005, fronting global ad campaigns, covering Vogue, headlining blockbuster films, and representing luxury brands with multi-million-dollar contracts. The only voice she discovered was the one screaming damage control after her image went up in flames. What she called a breakthrough was little more than a crisis management exercise in rebranding. For clarity, Blake never wore the Lady Deadpool suit. Those photos she was proudly signing? They featured her stunt double. And yet, she smiled and posed as if promoting a film she never starred in. Conveniently, this sudden burst of fan engagement came at the exact moment her team was scrambling to distract from her legal entanglement with Balden. It felt less like authenticity and more like a strategy session gone public. Print out stunt photos, toss them to fans, fake humility, and call it redemption. The entire rebrand has been a masterclass in performance over principle. Not activism optics. When called out for racial insensitivity, the response wasn't introspection, it was a check. Wealth weaponized as atonement. The couple reportedly donated $2 million to social justice initiatives through the NAACP, split evenly between them. But sincerity doesn't come with a receipt. Slip into plantation-inspired denim, sign a few misplaced photos, make a public donation, and hope everyone forgets. That was the plan. Except no one did. Audiences aren't buying the pastel-washed PR narrative anymore. Because while Angelina Jolie can reshape international discourse with a single line at a UN summit, Blake Lively is still caught in the loop of aesthetic activism, fashion over substance, apology over accountability. And for Time magazine to label her a titan for it. That wasn't admiration. That was satire disguised as praise. In 2025, Time magazine crowned Blake Lively a titan, celebrating a donation once used to paper over her own controversies. If Bleach ever needed a brand ambassador, it would be her, because Blake didn't just try to clean her history, she attempted to erase it. From 2018 through 2022, her plantation wedding resurfaced online every year like clockwork: memes, receipts, Reddit threads. Then, suddenly, silence. Posts vanished. Screenshots disappeared. Accounts locked. What looked like coincidence reeked of coordination, classic digital laundering. Industry whispers pointed to PR fixer Jed Wallace and his cleanup teams, specialists who bury scandal under layers of search engine fluff. And just like that, her plantation wedding was buried while her pastel empowerment posts floated to the top of Google like holy scripture. Her homebound campaign conveniently went under maintenance the same week Times list dropped, its website wiped clean of photos, the plagiarized tagline gone, and the charity-style promo video deleted without explanation. Because innocent people don't delete entire campaigns when questions arise. This was no rebrand, it was a cover-up. Behind the gloss, Blake Lively's brand was collapsing in real time. Critics dug into Magnolia Pearl, the controversial plantation core label she once endorsed, and found an entire aesthetic built on romanticized slavery. The timing couldn't have been worse. Her Time 100 feature appeared beside civil rights icons like Serena Williams and Simone Biles, with a glowing tribute penned by NAACP attorney Sherilyn Ifill. The irony was staggering. Online, fans called it what it was, pay-for-play PR. Because Blake didn't erase the past out of injustice, she erased it because it was true. Her timeline now looks cleaner than her face in a L'Oreal campaign. This wasn't reputation management. It was digital witness tampering, and it screamed guilt. Meanwhile, Hollywood's reaction was swift and silent. There were no call-outs, no think pieces, just unfollows. Florence Pugh and Charlize Theron led the exodus. Then Natalie Portman posted a quiet dagger of a statement: legacy isn't about being seen. It's about what remains. It wasn't a quote. It was a eulogy. Soon after, leaked photos from a UNHCR gala told the story visually. Angelina Jolie, in conversation with Amal Clooney, while Blake lingered in the background, uninvited and unnoticed, like a guest at the funeral of her own relevance. Within weeks, Emma Watson and Lupita Nyong'o unfollowed too, leaving Blake applauding herself in an empty room. Real cancellation, after all, doesn't make noise, it withdraws access. And through it all, Angelina Jolie never responded. No subtweets. No shade. Just silence, graceful, grounded, and unbothered. Her presence alone became the verdict. Blake's pastel empire crumbled, her campaigns vanished, and her credibility dissolved faster than her online footprints. The entire illusion, photoshopped philanthropy, market-tested activism, foundation-funded empathy, collapsed under the weight of one authentic sentence. She tried to buy legacy with donations, filters, and borrowed causes, but money can't purchase meaning. Time's Titan title for a questionable $2 million donation, maybe less, didn't elevate her, it exposed her. The woman who claimed to have finally found her voice had mistaken noise for purpose. When the applause faded and the room emptied, the only sound left was silence, and it didn't belong to her.